Tape recorder's running, right? Tape recorder's running.
Hey, Steve Smith.
Hello, Brett Starr.
How are you?
I'm good today. What's
Me
going
too.
on in the world of Brett?
Oh, fun. In the world of Brett. That sounds like a really scary place. Today, I've rented a U-Haul, and I will be finally moving all the equipment from one podcast studio to our new multi-podcast studio setup system. And this will hopefully be my final podcast from my home office, because my home office is also like the place where everyone throws shit they don't use, like board games and paper towels with bacon grease on them and, you know, like whatever. So I just put the screen up to hide all the chaos. Anyway, how are you doing? That's
I
true.
am doing great.
There's a paper towel back there with bacon grease on it. No, the dog brought it in.
The dog brought it in. It's like, why don't you pick that up? There is probably a wastebasket.
I just noticed it on the way in. It's the dog hides stuff behind that screen. And I was like, well, I'm late already. And if I stop to pick up that bacon grease soaked paper towel, then I'm going to be another 2 minutes late. And Steve is going to get pissed off at me again.
How long does it take you to throw away a paper towel? 2 minutes?
At my age, that's all the way on the other side of the house. I mean, come on.
We have one wastebasket? Come on, Brett.
Well, look, I think it's important to know your strengths and weaknesses. And waste baskets are where like bananas go to die for me, and they stay there for, like 3 months. So if I had a waste basket, I'd never empty it. At least when stuff winds up on the floor, it bothers me enough that eventually I pick it up. So it drives my wife crazy.
So much about you right now.
Well, so Jack, my son, 7 years old, super clean, always has his room clean, makes his bed every morning, arranges all his like stuffed animals, all that stuff. Bonnie's a lot like me. She just she doesn't care. She could live under a mountain of laundry with like candy bar wrappers, like, hanging from the bedposts, and it just doesn't bother her. And Jennifer's like, how can you live this way? And I'm like, I totally get it. It just doesn't bother me. But people are different. Anyway, I'm
sure that I combed my hair and I took a shower today. So
nice haircut too.
Oh, thank you. I had to get ready for
on audio. You need to know that Steve's got a great haircut.
Thank you. I will send this to my barber, who's also a podcaster, oddly enough. Does a barbering podcast.
Shocking.
I know.
Have you seen Only Murders in the Building?
No, I've been wanting to watch that.
So great. It kind of makes fun of the podcast genre, but everyone's a podcaster. And Tina Fey kind of plays like the serial original, OG podcaster. It's pretty funny. She's got the perfect voice for it. Come on, Sammy, get out.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't wait to
check that. Are you being attacked by a cat right now?
This is another reason why I'm looking forward to getting the studio set up, because Sammy,
that's a good looking cat.
The camera's rolling.
Man, we are crafting some compelling podcasting narrative today, aren't we?
Smash that subscribe button, hit like. Here's Steve and Brett talk about cats and trash. All right. Well, I'm gonna give that a breath, because that could have been a really bad segue. Moving on, rather, to HR Tech.
HR Tech.
So, we've got several channels for podcasting. This one's really focused on shareholder experience. We've got another one that we do with Lance that's focused on employee experience. We've got another one with Nancy that's focused on customer experience. This one's really focused on shareholder experience. HR Tech is coming up. Over the past decade or so, that's really become a big moment for the investment community. Probably 10 years ago, I remember going to HR Tech and starting to run into private equity folks and venture capital folks and, different folks who are trying to, get their minds wrapped around the work tech space. And they didn't really know very much. And this was before we had the multi-billion-dollar, years of investment that we've become accustomed to. But over time, we really saw the investment community become a really big part of HR Tech and other conferences, but especially HR Tech, and become more savvy and, use that as a real opportunity to find, seed round startups in the little startup pavilion, or talk to, folks in these like speed dating meeting situations, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes there, pitch competitions, all that stuff. Mm. So I'm curious, this is probably going to be a very different HR Tech than, last year, but certainly, different than what we've been experiencing in the thick of the pandemic. What are your expectations for HR Tech?
I'm hearing that this is going to be the biggest HR Tech ever in terms of exhibitors. I'm told that there will be more exhibitors at HR Tech than there were at SHRM for the first time.
Wow.
Yeah, and usually SHRM is not just a little bit bigger, but a lot bigger. And so
that's a full stop wow moment.
Yeah,
more exhibitors at HR Tech than SHRM.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So I'm told. I cannot confirm that with my own research and analysis.
Yeah,
Wolf. So that's going to be interesting to see if that's the case. I think that the thing that everybody's wondering about is, are attendees going to return? And I guess really come my question that, I don't have an expectation. No, I have an expectation. It's not necessarily going to be a positive one, but I sort of think that trade shows are not going to have the same sort of place in the buying journey that they did pre-pandemic.
Uh-huh.
That people are just not going to go back to that, at least in the near term, quite as quickly. And so that's what I'm going to be looking for validation or otherwise at this show is, are the buyers there?
Yeah. And so the question will be after this one, is it a wise investment of a company's, marketing dollars but it depends on what you're looking for. And we've been having this conversation forever. What is your expectation going into an HR Tech? Is it you're going to go in, you're going to execute your trade show strategy, you're doing your pre-show, at-show, post-show follow-up, you're going to generate new leads, new opportunities, and you expect to generate X amount of business coming out of it? Yeah.
And I don't think that world it existed even in 2019. I definitely don't think it exists now. I think that HR Tech is a brand awareness show. Is you go to, flex, your brand and to really kind of like basically show that, oh, my competitor has a 30 by 30. We've got a 40 by 40. It's part of it's an arms race. It's a beauty contest. It's not a demand gen show. And so,
and there's a million other reasons, to go as well. If there's tons of exhibitors, but very few, attendees, which no one is saying that that's what's going to happen. But, if that were the case, it's still one of the biggest collections of, executives from work tech companies, of representatives from the investment community. It's a great place to do business partnerships. It's a great place to pitch your company for investments. A great place to find investment opportunities, etc. So I kind of agree with you. So to summarize what I think I heard you say is the role of HR Tech in a post-pandemic environment has changed with regards to attendees marking it as, the major moment in like their RFPs, evaluations, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it used to be back in the day, we didn't explicitly say this, but back in the day, a lot of people who were running RFPs would show up and meet with, it was a convenient way to meet with all of the companies who were, in their final 3 or final 5. Lots of purchase decisions were made. It was, for a lot of organizations, Q4 is the, kind of harvest season. for bringing a lot of their new deals, and HR Tech was kind of like the unofficial, kind of start of that, as a lot of purchase decisions were finalized in October, November, etc. But here's my perspective. I'm going to represent two different cases. The first case is one wherein I kind of agree with you, which is I do think that the role of technology conferences like HR Tech for business to business technology buyers has changed in terms of its calculus and the buyer's journey or the customer experience. However, I think that there's going to be tons of attendees at this HR Tech, and this is why. So this is the case wherein I mostly agree with you, except for this year. I do think that the role of conferences for the buyer has changed, but I think everyone's going to have to come back to one before they finally make that decision, if that makes sense. I think there's a lot of people who are doing things right now just to see if what they want to hold on to that from the before times and what has changed so much that it's no longer valuable, right? And so I believe that there's a lot of pent up demand for travel, for hanging out in Vegas, for going to a technology conference, et cetera, et cetera. I think we're also in a moment of a new organizing principle that is very similar to, 20 years ago, where people are just going to figure out what is everyone else doing? Because, everything is changing so fast. Like when the cloud became a thing, when software as a service became a thing, people were legitimately going to HR Tech to figure out where the world was going. And so I think that there will be a moment like that this time around again. But mostly I think that this is going to be a huge show. People are going to get a lot out of their system, both on the recreation side and the business side. And then next year, if that's when I think we'll know whether, conferences are going to remain, a significant moment in the customer experience or if they're not. But this year I think is going to be hard to judge future years by, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that there's something to that thesis, and kind of going back to when you first started kind of explaining your position. One of the things that you were articulating was people coming to essentially do sort of middle of the funnel, middle stage meetings. Basically buyers coming there to meet with a handful of vendors, either narrow down their RFP or, they're, from 5 to 2 or 2 to 1. And I think that has always been a lot of the attendees that, or at least the conversations that I've had with vendors over the years, is it seems more like middle of the funnel deals are who the attendees are, and not top of the funnel, basically suspect to prospect or even prospect to opportunity. They're active sales opportunities that are going on. And so I think that will still be the case. And I think that there's something to sort of the dynamic that you're talking about, that there's some pent-up demand, not necessarily to buy software, but to just get the hell out of the office and go to a trade show and maybe, blow off a little steam by drinking somebody else's booze for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
I totally believe that dynamic exists. But when you think about the role of the technology conference in the buyer's journey, I think that there have been so many changes over the past decade almost at this point, but they've accelerated in the past 5 years and just gone into overdrive since the beginning of 2020. And it is the buying committee for enterprise software has gotten bigger. There are more people at the table. I mean, there's you can look at Salesforce research, Forrester research, Gartner research. There's just basically the size of the buying committee has doubled since 2015, 2016. So there's more people involved, and it's just I don't believe that most of those people are going to trade shows to figure out, okay, we have, X business problem. What are the solutions out there? I think that takes place way before anyone steps on the trade show floor. And then I think the second component that this is what I'm really interested to see play out this year is businesses have gotten used to not traveling for the most part for the past 2 years. They've gotten comfortable with conducting a lot of the, discovery and buying process over Zoom. I sort of think that the budget has not come back for travel, either for evaluating technology solutions or going to an HR tech as a learning and growth and development opportunity. And I think that even if that money was coming back at the beginning of 2022, CFOs out there said, hey, you know what? We're going to freeze that spend and you're not getting budget allocation for this. We need to play it cautious through the end of the year. And so I'm interested to see what that dynamic is.
Yeah, I just think it's going to be all over the place. I mean, I think it's going to be a really interesting HR tech. And I really don't want to downplay. I know it's like just one of the many, kind of points of conversation we've had about this, but I think probably the biggest driver. I mean, I was in Vegas 2 or 3 months ago, and it was like I'd walked into like an inner ring of hell. I mean, it was like Dionysus had like arrived. And,
so you were at the Luxor.
No, I was at the Cosmopolitan. The event that I was attending was at Aria, and I eventually changed rooms and went to a different hotel because it was so crazy at the Cosmopolitan. And I've stayed at the Cosmopolitan, for 10 different times, that I've been to Vegas. But it was just so crazy that I couldn't sleep because there were people like yelling in the halls. There were people hanging on the chandeliers, literally hanging on chandeliers. I mean, it was insane. So I think there's going to be a lot of people there who want to hang out by the pool, drink other people's booze, get out of their home office, et cetera, et cetera. So, I will say, as we're talking about this, I think this is going to be one of the big drivers, because if you look at, what people are experiencing in hybrid work environments and in return to work, in complete remote environments is, most people in those environments like it better, but they feel disconnected from their coworkers. They don't feel like they have that social, component. So I think for a lot of folks, this is going to be the opportunity to actually get together with some of their colleagues, just get together with other humans. So it might actually become a driver of increased attendance over time as a convenient way for people to all get together and also conduct some business, between drinks. So I don't know. I think it's going to be pretty insane.
Well, and it's interesting because, I've been having a lot of conversations over the past few weeks as I've been setting up meetings and not only talking to vendors, but talking to influencers and analysts. And one of the things I think is really interesting is I've talked to a handful of, 4 or 5 different analysts who typically would be, the typical analyst cadence at HR Tech is you show up and you're locked in that, fucking analyst briefing room, chained to a desk for 2.5 days. And they cram literally 100 meetings in there. And it is really, it's like a terrible experience for those people, but it's just everyone. For everyone, it's terrible. But what's interesting is I've talked to a number of analysts that are like, yeah, you know what, something got screwed up and I don't have nearly as many meetings, and I don't care. It's I'm going anyway. And it's just like, and even influencers are just like, you know what, I could book a bunch of meetings, but I'm really just going there to see people I like and drink excessively. And so I think, it just, people are being transparent about it. That's what's really interesting.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've been to an HR Tech?
2019. So
2019.
3 years.
So why are you going?
I'm going because we're launching our new brand.
Oh yeah.
That thing. So I figured
that's happening. Yeah.
And we've got the, by the way, we're launching a new brand that's coming up. Stay tuned. More to come. And we sponsor the Exhibitor Lounge. So I'm going for those reasons. I'd sworn I was never going to I actually swore I was never leaving the house again, except to walk my dog. But, as we've kind of gotten into the post-pandemic world, it's just like, you know what? I guess I'm going to have to do a business trip. I guess I'm going to have to go to a trade show. Reality has set in.
Okay, but truly, our brand aside, our exhibitor lounge aside, all that stuff, please come by the way and visit the Star Conspiracy at the exhibitor lounge.
Yeah, we have alcohol. You can come drink our alcohol.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got and we always have really good alcohol as well.
Mm-hmm.
But all that stuff aside, are you looking forward to going or not?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to going, unlike I've been looking forward to going to HR Tech in a long time.
And why?
Mainly for all the reasons you're just saying. I have not seen people. We have clients, we have sales prospects, we have influencers, analysts, people I like, all that.
Yeah. So a bunch of us who have been around in this industry for a long time, we actually like a lot of the people in the industry, and we like each other, and we haven't seen each other in a long time. And I think it's time well spent just to go and reconnect. With some folks we haven't seen for a while and have a drink, and just start every drink with, can we just not talk about business?
And I've had several conversations like that of just like, yeah, I can't wait to see you. Let's go have a drink. I don't care if I miss a meeting. I don't need to go to a session. I think that now that you've been talking about this, I think that there's a chance that this could be like a serious wheels come off component.
I'm calling it right now, and this is going to be printed before HR Tech starts. That's what we used to say back in the pre-digital world. This will be printed before. And I'm calling it. It is going like strange things are going. It's going to be like a rave. There's going to be people waking up on the exhibit floor because they thought it'd be cool to go there at like 3:00 in the morning. Hey, let's go see our booth. Let's go party in our booth.
Dude, you got to get past the Teamsters if you're going to do that, though.
We did that back. You remember when we parked
the Airstream? No, I wasn't at that one, but I heard about it.
Yeah. So we hung out in our little trailer, like just when everybody was closing up, they were closing the exhibit floor. We went to the trailer and closed all the doors, and they just left us in there. We stayed in there with like the AC on and the lights on, just like drinking till like 3:00 in the morning. It was great. So yeah, there's going to be some incredible, strange, awesome, beautiful things that go to, everyone stay safe, be safe out there in Vegas.
Make good choices. Make good choices.
Well, no, I don't want to put any pressure on anybody because I think there's going to be a lot of bad choices made. That's fine. But just, don't make too many bad choices in a row that result in like, ending up in the desert without a car.
Right.
That sort of thing. Otherwise, go for it. Have a great time. So I put out on LinkedIn this morning, the post that, back, I've been going to HR Tech since like 1999 or 2000 or something like that. Long time. And back in say 2002, 2005, even 2010, it was just an expectation that if you were a work tech vendor, that your CEO or founder was going to be there, and they were probably going to be working the booth. And, that was before the Oracles and the SAPs and the really big, software companies started coming in and, getting the really big exhibits and all that stuff. And you wouldn't expect to see their CEOs there, but pretty much even like the largest of work tech vendors would have their CEO or founder there. I don't think that's the case anymore. So I asked, hey, if you're an HR person, do you expect to see the CEO of vendors there? And I asked, vendors, is your CEO going to be there? If you're the CEO, are you going to be there? I'm getting some pretty interesting responses, but I just don't think that you get the kind of executive sponsorship that you used to get at HR Tech in terms of these folks showing up. I think a lot of that has to do with the size and scale of the business, but because now you've got some very large work tech companies, and it doesn't really make sense. You got like Jerome Turnick, for instance, over at Smart Recruiters, who is moving to the chairman of the board position. Yeah. Congratulations, Jerome.
Congrats, Jerome.
We exchanged some nice emails. He's going to be at Unleashed in Paris. I don't know if he's going to be at HR Tech, but 10 years ago, he definitely would have been in HR Tech, and you would have seen Jerome all over the place. Now, they've got hundreds of employees. They're a really big brand. They're a leader in the talent management market. And I just don't think that the same expectation is there. So I don't know. Do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing? Like, I mean, you're going to be there,
Yeah, but I'm not the CEO. You're not going to be there.
Well, actually, I'm keeping my options open. So I'm supposed to be.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm supposed to be at a Vista event in Scottsdale. It's a big Vista equity summit. And
I like how you just dropped that casually.
Well, yes, I am an external board member for Vista Equity, and I will be at a very important Vista Equity event in Scottsdale. But it does happen to overlap with HR Tech, and Scottsdale's, relatively close to Las Vegas, so I could shoot over for a day or two. I really don't want to, and I really want to at the same time. I'm very ambivalent, but I don't feel pressure to attend.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I felt pressure to attend. It's like, oh, if you're not there, people are going to be wondering what's going on with you or what's going on with the, the brand or, whatever. But I don't feel it's the same way anymore.
No, it's not. And it's interesting that you kind of bring that up because you're right. 10 years ago, it's just like, if you weren't at HR Tech, you needed to have your head examined. It's like, what are you thinking? And it's a different dynamic now. Like I'm surprised this year with how many CEOs they may be at HR Tech. They're probably, if they go by the booth, they're just passing by to check on things. Most of the time you're seeing these CEOs, they're talking to potential investors. They're cultivating partner conversations. They're, having alliance conversations, things like that. They're nowhere near the floor actually talking to meeting customers. And I think that some of that has to do with just sort of the growth, expansion, and maturity of the work tech category. And so I don't know that this is necessarily bad, but I think that when you look at one of the big changes that we've seen in the industry, and this is going to be a big part of the trends report that we're working on for Q4, is the growth of importance of ecosystems. Is, do you fit into specific ecosystems that I, as an enterprise, have already invested in? And if you don't have, preferred partner status, if you do not integrate in, you don't have all your APIs built out, I will not even think about having a conversation with you as a specific point system. And so I think that you're seeing these different kind of fiefdoms being built. And you can, if you're a point system, you can exist within sort of different ecosystems. But it's really becoming a lot more important and mission critical to have those ecosystems built out. And so I think that a lot of what CEOs are doing at HR Tech specifically is having those conversations rather than, hey, I need to talk to, whoever's walking up to the booth on the floor. That's just not as important. And I think that, I don't think a CEO should be doing that of a company of a certain size. Yeah.
Yeah. Not anymore. But, it's funny because the more things change, the more they stay the same. Cliche. But this stage that we're in that is ecosystem driven, as you're talking about, this is just the stage of maturity that WorkTech is in. You saw it in ERP. Prior to ERP, you saw it in things like the database wars. I mean, it's hard to believe now, but many, many, many years ago, there were literally hundreds of different databases. There was Sybase, there was Informix, there was Btrieve, there was SQL Server, and the Sphinx version of SQL Server, and there was literally like 200 database types. And if you wanted to, play as the database, world matured, and there was 4 or 5, like major leaders, you would, basically be in that ecosystem, that partner ecosystem. Seen it in marketing automation and CRM and ERP, et cetera, et cetera. It's a sign of kind of getting close to, tilting over into late maturity, where everything becomes, it goes from basically point solutions way back in the day. Point solutions come together into category solutions. Categories come together in platforms, and then platforms really end up becoming ecosystems.
Yeah.
And that drives a whole second act for the market, where suddenly everyone starts building around these different dominant ecosystems. That's what's happening now. But all that's doing is signaling another 10 years of expansion. Go back and look at any market where this phase that we're in was developing, and you'll see that the growth was happening for another 10 years after that, before the truly massive consolidation that, comes for us all in the end. But we're still another 10 years away from that. And then, by then, we're all of us are going to be on to the next thing, which is always going to be hopefully grounded in people. I mean,
yeah.
But, a lot of people don't remember. Sorry to wax philosophical this morning, but we are talking about HR tech. What a lot of people don't remember is that it was an innovation of the late 90s and early 2000s to actually think about people and technology at the same time. So, it could easily fall out of favor as an organizing principle in the future. Who knows? But I think we're a long, long, long way off from that, especially with the pandemic having taught us so many lessons. So, flash round. What are your expectations? What are the trends? What are you going to see at HR Tech? Predictions.
Well, what I'm interested to see is there's a lot of sort of gravity coming around this whole kind of like returning to the office dynamic. And you're seeing a ton of these solutions that are sort of, they're employee experience driven, but they're more about what is the, how can you measure analytics of things like who's in the office, what are they doing in the office? If we are in a hybrid work environment, hey, do I want to come in today because someone I need to have a meeting with is in the office already? Those kind of things. I think that there is just a whole raft of solutions that, even as we've seen investment over the past few months kind of, throttle back a little bit, those type of solutions are still really getting a lot of funding and a lot of buzz. And so I'm interested to see if those type of solutions are making kind of a big push and a big run at this year's event, or if they are maybe still a year away from really popping up on the radar in a big way. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of
some vendors. Yep.
You would ask me that.
I was moving on. I was going to say, who are some vendors that you think people should go by and see? Who do you think are going to be like some standout folks there? Perhaps in this category, perhaps in others.
I think that what I'm really interested to see is kind of, in with those ecosystem plays in mind, what are the major players doing? So what does that look like in terms of, what's the story that they're telling in their booth? Because and I think the other thing I'm interested in seeing is, and this is something you've been talking about for years. It's just like, the typical kind of booth setup where it's just like, you got people working, you got your screens. Hey, let me walk you through a demo, blah, blah, blah. And you've been preaching this from the rooftops for years. It's just like, that's not as important as the experience that you're creating in the booth. And I'm interested to see if that begins to take hold, and really kind of thinking about the show as a brand experience and how that changes the booth experience as a result. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I mean, you wouldn't this is where you really see how scared people are of big ideas, because it's the easiest place to have a big idea that, it's literally one of the only physical manifestations of your brand that most buyers will ever see. It's very controlled. It's a very controlled environment when it comes to price. It's very hard to spend, $1 million there. You have to find creative ways to spend $1 million. So it's not like you're going to have a $30 million, campaign or something like that. And so it's really easy to, execute a big creative idea that results in a defining moment or an incredible experience for your customers from a CX perspective, meaning everyone who's, going to be a customer, is a customer, has been a customer, will, et cetera, et cetera. And yet I've seen so many people through the decades get right to the moment of pulling the trigger on a really big idea. And then they get scared because it's so different than what everyone else does. And that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
And, we've always said, hey, great marketing should make you uncomfortable. It should scare you in terms of if you're the person, launching that big idea. Creativity is very fragile and it is scary when you're out on the edge. You're putting your, ego on the line. And you should embrace that. That's the moment where you should know that you're on to something. And 99% of the time, that's where people are going to pull back. So I watch for Joyous, because I had a conversation with Mike Carden months ago about whether or not HR tech was relevant, important, significant, and how to do it the right way and what he cares about. And I think he's always been, and his companies have always been companies that don't pull back from a really big idea. So I think he will create a great experience. No pressure, Mike. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah. We're rooting for you.
Yeah, we'll see. Anything else you're looking forward to or expecting at HR Tech?
Well, after having talked to you, I'm expecting a lot of tomfoolery. So
yeah,
I'm interested to see, oh my God, did that just happen? That kind of thing.
I'm pretty much giving everybody a free pass. I mean, everybody. So if anybody from the Star Conspiracy is going and they get in trouble,
we're gonna edit that part out.
Just call us. We're gonna take care of you.
What is that movie?
Get you out of jail really quick.
What's that movie where it's just it's this future, near future dystopian civilization where on one night nothing's illegal and it's just people go out wilding and doing
The Purge.
Yeah, The Purge. The way you're talking about it makes it sound like that's what HR Tech's gonna be, The Purge. I
think it is. Minus all of the violence. Okay. I think it is going to be you know what? They always say bet on the jockey, not the horse.
Yeah.
It's like,
do we have any people? Do we have any of that Kevlar left over that we sent to Ukraine?
No.
I might need some.
That's not a bad idea. But yeah, I think that's the big takeaway. I think the big takeaway is just expect the unexpected and be safe. But don't be too hard on yourself if you make some bad decisions, because that's the season that we're in right now. It's revenge travel, going to conferences, just getting out of the house to do something. That's where we are. It's been a crazy world. And this is, I think, the first, big chance closest to our industry, because I think other people have already experienced this, but this is the show where I think we're going to get closest to the fire in terms of people just uncorking for the first time.
Yeah.
And so, hey, have a good time. Have a good time, y'all. And Steve, will
I see you?
I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say.
I'm just going to look up and there you'll be.
Even if I get so much social anxiety. The last time I went to HR Tech was years ago, and I disguised myself as Wilford Brimley. I literally wore a costume with a prosthetic nose. So people wouldn't recognize me.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. And do not edit that out, because that is true. And Jonathan Herrick actually recognized me. He's like, Brett? So maybe you'll see me. Maybe you'll see Wilford Brimley. Who knows? I don't know. But we will be having a conversation from the exhibit floor or somewhere.
Yep. Man on the scene. Live from HR Tech.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, it's good talking to you. And look forward to speaking with you either on location in Las Vegas or remotely during HR Tech. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like button. What are the other buttons? There's comments, have a comment, leave a comment.
There's off.
What would Mr. B say?
Stop. Delete.
Yeah, stop.
Control-Alt-Delete.
Don't. Yeah. Whatever you do, don't share this video with anyone.
Yeah.
Please. Or steal this book. All right, man. Talk to you next week.
All right, take care.